So again, I'm Heath Viner, and I will be doing just kind of a brief company overview, a little bit about BankTEL, a little bit about our accounting suite, and then ultimately my colleague, Philip Malatesta, will actually be taking a live look at the BankTEL Ascend application, walking you through keying an invoice, running you through workflow, and allowing us to do a payment run on the back end. And ultimately, we obviously won't have time to cover everything that the BankTEL suite offers, so certainly happy to schedule some time with you individually to cover that on an offline basis. So one of the things here at AvidXchange and BankTEL, we identified a huge opportunity to help institutions in the way that they pay their bills. And that's really by leveraging technology to pay those bills. It's amazing to me how many institutions that we see still use very antiquated technology to pay bills, whether that's a typewriter or that's going to a teller line to provide and cut a cashier's check. So really what we want to do is provide you with those tools to be able to leverage the technology that is available throughout the industry. And the great thing is that we're on this journey with you to help pay your bills, and we're going to take that journey together. So I want to give you a little insight about BankTEL and how we've gotten to where we are. So BankTEL was founded in 1992. Boyce Sr., who was our founding father, back in the mid 80s, was running in the oil and gas industry after the oil and gas collapse. And a business partner came to him with a business plan to offer a software to an industry. And it was up to Boyce Sr. to identify what industry made the most sense to approach. And at that time, they looked at three industries. They looked at cable companies, brickyards, and financial institutions. And at that time, in the mid-'80s, the cable companies were in a state of constant consolidation. There was only 200 brickyards, and this is hard to believe, but at that time, there was over 18,000 financial institutions in the U.S. So they made the decision to proceed with pursuing banks and building a product specifically focused with banks. Another point on here is in 2007, Ascend was released, which of course is what we're going to look at today. It's our fourth iteration of the BankTEL system, and we eclipsed over 1,400 clients that utilize the web-based accounts payable suite. Over the last 3 years, BankTEL and our team has migrated over 1,100 clients to the Ascend application. And of course, in August 2019, AvidXchange acquired the BankTEL company. So as we look at the AvidXchange acquisition, sorry, I'm having some technical issues. There we go. Sorry about that. So as we transition over to BankTEL and our relationship with Avid, for those of you that have interacted with BankTEL at other institutions and other past lives, we have the two main law offices, of course, in Columbus and in Birmingham, Alabama, and those are going to continue to operate. We are expanding those offices. Boyce Jr., who took over the reins from BankTEL, will continue to be our leader, and we'll also be able to leverage the additional resources of the other 5 Avid offices throughout the country. So one of the things that has made us successful and allowed us to be in this space for so long is our customer support and our onboarding. These are one of the things that we're really known for, and it's something that we definitely pride ourselves on. So one of the big things is training. So we ultimately believe as we interact with institutions that you're looking to us to move you off of system A to system B, and we want to provide you with that care to make you comfortable, make you feel comfortable utilizing that system. So all the training that we do is free, it's live, it's instructor-led, and you can attend the classes as many times as you want. And in regards to a customer care, we have a support line that's available from 7 to 7, and you're able to call in at any time that you want. Our average wait time is probably less than 5 minutes. So I wanted to hit a couple of high points on the Ascend application around the people that utilize the Ascend product today. So we have over 3,700 active users. Over 12 billion invoices were paid annually last year. And we are a little above average in regards to customer retention. Over 96% stay with BankTEL, and the reason it's not 100 is because of the constant mergers and acquisition within the financial space, as you guys are familiar with. And then we also have a little over 1,700 financial institutions, and that ranges from de novos and, of course, banks and credit unions. So the next thing I wanted to touch on is the Ascend slide. As I slowly transition to introducing Phil here in the next few minutes, I want to be able to show you some of the products that make up this suite. So first of all these are a la carte, so these can be bought individually. They also are going to work together and share information. And so as Phil shows you here shortly, when he's keying in an invoice, you can flag it at the allocation level as a fixed asset or as a prepaid or subject to use tax or 1099. And the point of that is to leverage that key, leverage that so you don't have to key it back into the system. And also it's going to generate an audit trail. We also have the ability to convert data. So if you're utilizing a different system like Sage or you're doing something in Excel, we also have the ability to convert your data. All that's done in-house, so we can convert your data so you won't lose your historical information. The second column is, or second row, is our compliance, is our workflow solutions. And of course, one of those we'll touch on today is the workflow. The workflow allows the system to create rules. So whether you have very simple rules, if it's dollar amount or this type of vendor, we can work with you to create those rules to determine where those invoices or expense are routed. And the nice thing about that is that you can leverage the system to know where to send those items, and that way the system becomes the bad guy. We also have the ability to automate your expense reimbursements. This is also a really popular product that a lot of our clients are utilizing. It's going to standardize the submission of expense reports. We also leverage a credit card import as well as OCR capability, so that as you travel, you can take a picture of that receipt and then toss the receipt. And then when you get back to the office, you have to key in very little information. Depending upon how many institutions have multiple locations and multiple branches, there's ultimately numerous ways of getting those images or documents into the system. And I know Phil will touch on some of those today. We also focus on some compliance solutions as well. We do have a vendor management system that allows you to keep track of contracts, expiration dates, as well as allows you to create ticklers of what's important to you, whether it's updated financials or a W-9. And then we also have the ability to maintain and keep track of shareholders and have make dividend payments. Keep in mind that since Ascend is web-based, you can access all these solutions in one place. One login, whether you're on a cell phone or a tablet, you'll be able to access our platform. So as I slowly transition into giving the ball over to Philip, I want to touch on a couple of things. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a couple different ways that we can get invoices into the application itself. One of those is AvidInvoice. So if you're struggling with the sheer amount of invoices that you're receiving in the mail, or your AP team is just struggling keying them into your current system, you do have the ability to send those to us, and we will key them into the system and hopefully offset some of the upfront that you're having to manage those invoices. We will cover the Ascend suite today, so Philip's going to walk you through keying in an invoice. He'll also touch on routing it through an approval. And then on the back end, in regards to pay, we have 4 payment options within the Ascend application. That, of course, is check, direct deposit, and ACH. So all 3 of those options are built into the product. They're included at no additional charge. We also have a 4th payment method, and of course, that is going to allow for intelligent bill pay. And what that allows us to do is to leverage our over 400 members in our vendor network department to manage a list of over 500,000 vendors to find out how they prefer to be paid. And so that's an intelligent bill pay product that you'll also have the ability to leverage. So Phil, as I transition over and switch the ball over to you. Okay, Philip, you should have the ball now to share your screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Heath. My job today is to make sure you understand how we can help. It's maybe for you to analyze what you're doing, how archaic some of your processes may be, and ultimately, hopefully, get you in contact with one of our account managers to see how we can help your institution. Okay. So what you're going to see today is our Ascend Accounting Suite. And this here is absolutely all browser based. So nothing needs to be loaded manually. And in fact, this is actually also mobile compatible. So when we talk about approval workflow and expense reports, your approvers can take care of their items on their phone. And you can also take pictures of receipts and do a lot of that good stuff as well. What I really like here is the ability that you can toggle between all the applications. So as Heath mentioned, whether you are in accounts payable or fixed assets, maybe you're just submitting an expense report. Maybe you're a BSA officer, you want to run an OFAC scan on your vendors. All of your information is here, and you have the ability to toggle between the two. Okay. Also, let's take a look here at the vendor setup, if you will, because a lot of information starts at the vendor level. As Heath alluded to earlier, whether you're cutting checks or direct deposits, ACH payments, or even our AvidPay kind of intelligent bill pay network, all of that's built into the system. And so if I were to drill down into example for BankTEL's vendor profile, you're going to find a lot of information linked throughout the software. Okay, so as we scroll through BankTEL's vendor profile, a lot of things here from multiple remit to addresses, from emailing W-9s, for those controllers or CFOs that want to see, what our scheduled invoices look like or what our assets or prepays look like. You can always drill down into that. And if you'll notice here from an Excel spreadsheet, you can get rid of, we've got our cost amortization balance. We have invoice images that are built in here that you'll scan or browse and attach. But ultimately, all of your data is linked into one database, which is super cool. From an invoice perspective, this is something that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but just to kind of walk you through the next few minutes here. Once again, my goal here is to show you how we can help. I'll briefly key in an invoice. From an approver perspective, we'll take a look at that, and then we'll run through a payment run to show you how AvidPay works. Okay. So we're going to use my GTR Consulting as my vendor. Now, I'm going to be your main accounts payable user. I've got a paper invoice at my desk. But keep in mind, there are alternate methods to get these invoices into Ascend. I'm just going to utilize our standard keying this into the database. Okay. For time's sake, I'm actually just going to copy my last invoice record. And then if you'll notice here, this pre-populates how we paid GTR last. Okay. So in short, maybe I want to change the amount just for show. And ultimately, we can recalculate that, and we're going to use this approval process. And I'll explain that in just a moment. We're expensing this to 3 different accounts. We've got fixed assets and prepaids allocated for these different allocations. And once we save that invoice record, we're essentially done at that point. We can scan these documents in directly. You can drag and drop, browse and attach. So let's say that invoice came through on your email. This couldn't be easier for you. You'll have your network drive or your email, grab that invoice, drop it in the box, and we're done. That's it. From here on out, we're completely paperless. As you've seen earlier, you can get rid of those filing cabinets, and you'll now see that we have that invoice built into the system. It's unapproved, and we also have our invoice image here as well. All right. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I think it's important. From the approval process perspective, there's a lot of things you can do, right? A lot of my institutions, banks, credit unions, they say, hey, we like to route by vendor. We like to route by amount. We like to route by account number. You can do all of that with BankTEL. So if you'll see here, in this process, I've got a rule based on maximum and minimum limits. I have an or statement, maybe based on my IT department that any of these people can approve. Amy's in my marketing department. She hates when we expense stuff to her budget. So we have a rule set up that if we code it to our advertising and marketing GL, she gets that invoice for approval. Conversely, Whoever your core is, your president wants to see those invoices. You can make vendor rules, and the list goes on, right? This is a super robust system that you can build very simple complexes or simple approval processes, or very complex as well, right? So whether you're 50 million in assets or you're 20 billion in assets, this is definitely a good fit for you that can help. Okay. Now what I'll do here is now transition to my approver role. Now keep in mind, I'm going to use my user Larry today, but Larry's out of the office a lot, right? He's executive, he's on the golf course, he might be at down in Destin catching some big fish. But in short, he can take care of all those approvals even though he's outside of the office, okay? So when we log in as Larry, what you'll find here is he's going to log in and be directly sent to his notifications bar. So it looks like he has 5 invoices in his queue instead of stacked up on his desk. He also has some other reminders here for contract dates and vendor management and things like that. Keep in mind, whatever modules you have with us, they all talk to one another. What I really like here is that all of our invoices are in the queue, and this really couldn't be more simple. So if you're an approver perspective, if you have permissions, you can drill down into these invoices, and you can see everything from who keyed this in to how we're coding this. You can hover over and see account names. You can see if they're fixed assets. And even more important than that, if you have that transparency, you can even drill down into the vendor and you can see contract images or prior paid images as well. It's all linked here for you to review. Okay. So couldn't be simpler for you. Approve, put on hold, or decline. All of these have comments. Let's make it easy for Larry today. We'll say, please pay ASAP, and we're done. From here, we've approved that item. It's been taken care of. And if we switch back to our accounts payable role, keep in mind, my approver's done at this point. We can get on to more important things at our financial institution. For my main accountants, though, you'll see on the dashboard of AP, we've got 10 approved items. And your examiner goes, well, I want to see that approval record. Where is that? Hey, it's all in the system. It's right here at the top, Larry, timestamp, comment. We've got invoice images. We've got how we've coded the allocation, the invoice. Everything's here in one click. It's going to save you a lot of time. For the talk of time's sake, I've just got one other thing to walk you through, and then we'll open it up for Q&A here in a minute. Let's talk about the AvidPay. This is something I'm super excited about. So I've been with BankTEL for about 7 years now. Our recent merger with AvidXchange back in October allowed us to offer this outsourced or bill pay system to you all. And the beauty of this is that if you are all cutting checks, we can take that off of you for less than $1 a payment. It's phenomenal. But in short, the end user doesn't do anything differently. You're going to click on the invoices you want to process. It's going to scan against the OFAC list, right? That's just a plus of being with you. You have OFAC built in, and then you click process. That's it. If you want to cut checks locally, you can send them to the printer. But with AvidPay, through our API that's built in, that information gets sent to us. We look at that invoice or that payment and go, do we have them in our network of 500,000 vendors? If so, we know their preferred payment method. So we'll either issue a card, an ACH, or a check on your behalf. If we don't have them, we'll reach out as an extension of your AP team and say, hey, this is Phil with AvidXchange. We're calling on behalf of ABC Bank. Well, we're trying to issue this payment to you all. Here's our 3 payment types. Which do you prefer? So the beauty of this is that you're issuing checks to your vendors, whereas if you ran them through AvidPay, you're letting your vendors choose how they want to get paid. It's going to build a better relationship for you. Okay. And then the last thing I'll cover here from a reporting perspective, which is paramount. Cannot tell you how many institutions I've helped with reporting, getting better transparency on their allocations, where they're spending money, their T&E for expense reports. And if you'll notice here, if we look into a payment history category, for example, I'm looking into that AvidPay register or really anything at all, right? So let's just say I want to go ahead and create a custom report, or I'm running maybe it's a daily allocations report, right? So I've already created this report type. I favorited that. And then the best part is that you can customize this report, slice it and dice it however you want to, right? You can modify it. We've got columns, grouping, sorting, all of that good stuff here. It's free form. But what I love about this is that you can export this into a PDF, Excel, Word, or text. But the better part of that is that if you have a question, you go, well, what did Heath, key in, or what did Phil key in here? What is this GTR invoice? I can drill down into that record, and I can see everything here. It's linked back to the invoice image. Where we're coding this, we can hover over and see that account name. And the best part is, if you were to drill down, for example, into this payment record, we talked about AvidPay. This is so cool. You're wondering if we've issued your payment. You don't have to call us. You can drill down into this payment record, and everything's here for you. So as we scroll through this payment notification or payment record within Ascend, you'll be able to see through that API that information be sent back to your BankTEL website. And so if your vendor calls you, you can see if we've issued a check, if we've issued them a card. But in reality, they'll be calling us to see where that payment is and what that looks like through the process. So once again, just offering another level of that extension of your AP team. And we're trying to be the front line for any of your payments or any of that reconciliation if you choose us to use that for your service. Okay. And then one of the last things that I'll talk about here in just a moment as well is kind of the service that we talked about earlier. Our support team is always available. We've got clients all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. We've got clients even in the Caribbean as well, all the way out to Guam. I used to talk to them quite often. But in short, we're here to help you however we can. You have the full, we're all U.S. based. We're here in Birmingham, here in Mississippi as well. So if there's anything you need us to do, we can definitely help you with that. And once again, my goal for you today is to be able to say, what are we doing? How can we be better? It's 2020. Let's get rid of paper. Let's get rid of everything that, those filing cabinets and things of that nature.
So Phil, as we wrap up, we definitely appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully this last 30 minutes or so has been beneficial. As you can see on your screen, depending upon the state that you're located in, you're welcome to reach out to that individual account executive to be able to answer any questions that you might have, as well as set up an additional time to go through some of these other services and products that we have. And if you have questions on pricing, they can also field those questions as well. Thank you for your time, and hope everyone has a great rest of the day.